Mm. Okay, webinar is being recorded.
So welcome, friends. I'm Nilima Bhatt, the co-convener of the Truth and Reconciliation Movement, and this is our week. And I am just so delighted that I'm here to introduce one of the final sessions of this incredible week. And this is going to be facilitated, led by a very, very special person to me and to every single person on this call, I'm sure. Her name is Jeroo Mulla, and as we wait for others to join, which I'm sure they will over the next minute or so, I'm going to do the more formal introduction, which I'm sure everyone knows. And then when we have a little more time and there are more people in, we will have the more fun and special introduction, okay? So about Jeroo Mulla. Jeroo Mulla was the head of the Sophia Institute of Social Communications Media Mumbai from 2012 to 2013, and the head of the Social Communications Media Department, Sophia Polytechnic, Mumbai from 1986 to 2012. She has been teaching film appreciation, photography, and the fundamental concepts of communications, and supervising student documentaries at the Sophia Polytechnic for over 30 years since 1979. Currently, she continues to teach film and photography as a visiting faculty at Sophia Polytechnic and at various other media institutes such as Xavier's Institute of Communications and Symbiosis Institute of Mass Communications. She's also a media consultant and was on the advisory boards of the Xavier's BMM course and the Haridev University of Communications in Jaipur. Jeroo is an accomplished Bharatanatyam exponent who has trained under the renowned Guru Acharya Parvati Kumar. She has recently made a documentary as a tribute to her Guru, and it is available on YouTube. Jeroo also currently serves on the advisory board of the Drama School of Mumbai. So with that, a big warm welcome to you, Jeroo. And let me just say a little bit about the Truth and Reconciliation movement that you have so kindly joined. This is a week that we are doing this year. It began last year with the George Floyd killing, and a group of us came together to say, surely we can have a people's movement while governments and multilateral agencies do what they have to do. How about a global citizens movement where we all gather around our expert facilitators around two tracks? The first is to heal our personal and collective trauma and schisms that lead us to create the violence around us. And the second is to do any kind of leadership training and offering that can help build a more peaceful and harmonious world. We've had some fantastic speakers all week. Browse us on truthandreconciliation.net. I'm going to request our tech intern, we have Manasvi on the call with us, to please put the website of Truth and Reconciliation on the chat box so all of you get to have that. So today is Guru Purnima. It is the day in India, those who follow it, who really remember and seek out the blessings of whoever has played the role of a true teacher in their life. And I don't know if Jeroo chose this day on purpose, but the truth is she has been a guru. Jeroo is a legend, as all the many people who have joined this call and registered and will watch the recording afterwards. This session has been the most subscribed session of the entire week. At last count, we had about 460 registrations, and this webinar can only take up to 500. So this is a deep mark of respect and honor of who Jeroo is and what she has done. I count her as one of the great role models of what a teacher can be and the impact a good teacher can leave on the world. And the fact that she chose to be a teacher of media women her impact has been so much more, because every woman who she has touched was gone out and done that work of social sensitization and social impact in the world through the various media that they work in. Can you imagine how multiplied Jeroo's impact is? So I'm just so delighted to have you on the call, Jeroo, and over to you on the subject you have chosen for this week, Caste through the lens of Indian cinema.
Thank you. Thank you, Nilima. Thank you for your very warm welcome. I am really happy to be talking because this is something that I believe very strongly is really poisoning our country. Okay, so I'm going to begin. You'll have to excuse me because I'm going to read. I can't talk forever on this.
Okay, so Jeroo, just a quick logistical thing then for the listeners. If you have just general comments, put them in the chat box.
No.
No, if they have questions, put them in the Q&A box. Because I'm going to moderate the questions and help Jeroo answer them later. So I just need your help. I don't want to be toggling between what's in the chat and what's in the Q&A. So questions for Jeroo in the Q&A box and general comments in the chat box.
Okay, so I'm just going to start. Caste through the lens of movies. So we all know what a scourge is caste in India. Across the world, there's a problem of color. But in India, it is caste. And of course, the demand for a fair skin when choosing a bride. In my family, I remember going to Tithal, a village near Valsad, and my mother handing over packets of food from a distance, dropping it off into the hands of Pali, who used to clean the pots where we excreted. No flushes there. I was surprised by that. By contradiction, Pandu, who used to work in our house, would hold me when I was small, serve us at the table, etc. I even used to go up to his Holi, where his wife Indu would give me bajra chapati and lasan chutney to eat. Delicious. Pandu was a convert. He was a neo-Buddhist. I used to play with his daughter Ranjina and always wonder why my father was paid 3,000 and why Pandu got only 30 rupees. Inequality had upset me from my youth. My father actually was amazing. He got all of Pali's son's jobs and Pandu's son Sakaram also a job in Tata's where daddy worked. I think much of my acceptance of caste was because of my father. My dance guru and his wife were forced to elope because they were from different castes. I'm a Parsi and we too have a kind of caste system. The pallbearers are considered impure, but they can cleanse themselves, so they're not always impure. I learned this from Sunitara Parwala, who scripted the film Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Thanks to Sunitara Parwala, I saw the life of Babasaheb Ambedkar made by Japar Patel. I cannot imagine how much research went into it, but I learned a lot. They had to wear brooms, carry a pot around their neck so that their spit would not pollute. Ambedkar suffered enormously. Even as a child, he was not allowed to sit with others in school. In one of his writings, he writes, "No peon, no water," because only a peon could pour water for them. And if there was no peon, there was no water. It was the Maharaja of Baroda under the scheme established by Sayaji Rao Gaikwad III, who sponsored his studies at Columbia and then in the UK. In between, he was called back to work in Baroda, but had great difficulty finding accommodation. He tried to stay in a Parsi-run place, pretended he was a Parsi, but then other Parsis came to know, so he was asked to leave. So he returned to Mumbai. Ironically, Naval Bhatena, a Parsi who he met in Columbia, remained his lifelong friend. It was thanks to Smriti Kopikar, a student and now colleague and dear friend, that I learned that Shahu Maharaj of Kolhapur supported Ambedkar's rise. At a conference of untouchables, he asked Ambedkar to chair the event and introduced him thus: "You have found your savior in Ambedkar. I am confident that he will break your shackles. Not only that, a time will come, so whispers my conscience, that he will shine as a front-rank leader of all India fame and appeal." And that came true. With the help of Shahu Maharaj, he began the publication of the weekly Muknaik, Leader of the Silent. Apart from that, he also published Bahishkrit Bharat and Equality Janta. Many of his children died and finally his wife, but after 12 years, he marries again. a doctor who helps to look after his diabetes and all kinds of other problems that he had. He did not get along too well with Gandhi, but eventually it was Gandhi who suggested that he form part of the panel to write the Constitution of India. In Jabbar Patel's film, it is shown how he finally converted to Buddhism. He was approached both by the Christian and the Muslims for conversion, but he chose Buddha. Perhaps because Dada Keluskar, his father's friend, had given him a book on Buddha's life, but also because Buddha never discriminated. Several of his disciples were untouchables, and Buddha's key principle was compassion. After Gandhi's death, Ambedkar recites Om Mani Padme Hum. Ambedkar led the Dalits in a... I do Vipassana also, so I know a lot about Buddha. Ambedkar led the Dalits in a satyagraha in Mahad to drink water from a tank in the town, and another to burn the Manusmriti, and then the Kalaram temple movement to see the image of a Hindu god. But when they reached the gates, the Brahmin authorities had closed them. I teach cinema, and one of the earliest films I screen is Birth of a Nation. It is a highly racist film which glorifies the Ku Klux Klan, but it is of course great because it also introduces us to the earliest techniques of cutting, parallel editing, and other important aesthetic innovations. After the class, I ask my students what they think of the movie. And usually there's an outcry of protest about racism, how the blacks are treated. When I ask them what would their parents say if they were to marry their driver's son or their maid's son, or anyone who sweeps and cleans the road or garbage, there's pin drop silence. Only those who have got admission on the reservation quota, which I'm very happy exists, know what it means. The others, while more than ready to blame the Americans, are turning a blind eye to the caste system in our own country. That is only the beginning. Later, of course, Magsaysay Award winner P. Sainath takes many lectures on caste. Another film I screen is an excerpt from Acchyut Kanya, directed by Frank Austin, and a production of Bombay Talkies made in the 30s. Pratap, Ashok Kumar, and Kasturi, Devika Rani, grow up together because of the common bond her father, from a lower caste, shares with Mohan Lal, who's a Brahmin. Pratap and Kasturi fall in love. Of course, in the 30s, they can't marry, though they love each other. Each one of them is made to marry another from the same caste as theirs. Kasturi's husband already has a wife, but marries a second time. But what is really moving is that at one point, Pratap says he wishes he was born a low caste so that he could marry Kasturi. Another problem is that, of course, it's Devika Rani, niece of Rabindranath Tagore, who plays the Achyut. She herself is of a higher caste, fair and beautiful. Then again, at the end of the movie, the two wives plot to allow Pratap to escape with Kasturi by suggesting that they all go to the village fair. Of course, that cannot happen. Kasturi flings herself on the railroad track to protect those on the train and dies and is made a saint of. The movie starts off with that and ends with that. Near a statue of her, where a couple comes to speak to the guard. One has to understand that this movie was made in the 30s, when the movement for independence for India was very strong. The strong and Gandhian ideas on Harijans were dominant, as were Ambedkar's for the Dalits. But at that time, it could not be shown that a lower caste marries an upper caste Hindu. In the 50s comes Bimal Roy's Sujata. This is one film in which the upper caste boy Adhir marries Sujata. There's one problem though, she's brought up by upper caste parents. While the father is sympathetic to her, the mother is not. Luckily, she has a very warm relationship with her sister Rama. Sujata and Adhir fall madly in love, but Sujata refuses to marry Adhir because she says he should marry Rama from the same caste. It's a very moving film because right throughout we are made to feel her rejection. The mother always favors Rama. Sujata's birthday is never celebrated. And when Adhir says that for him, Sujata is important, she says it's the best gift she could have ever had. At the end, the mother falls ill and needs blood. All the other members try and donate, but only Sujata's matches. And so her life is saved. The mother then is remorseful and only then understands how much Sujata loves them. There's even a letter Sujata writes to Adhir, wherein she states that she owes her life to her parents, that she will never marry but just look after them. Only after the mother's life is saved do the parents agree to the marriage. And so Adhir and Sujata do get married. But we have to remember that this is now 50s, almost 60s, 1959 the film was made. So things have changed a little by that time. I wonder if there were more films like Sujata, would they have had a more positive impact? I don't know. We now come to the 70s with Shyam Benegal's Ankur. Again, it's Shabana Azmi playing the role of a Dalit girl. She's fair and beautiful. She's married to a deaf and dumb potter, Kishtaya. Surya, Anant Nag, the son of a higher caste landowner, is married to a young girl, Sura. It's a child marriage. And he feels very frustrated that he can't have sex. He begins to flirt with Lakshmi, but she doesn't respond. He sends her husband Kishtaya off to drive a bullock cart, but he steals toddy, so he's beaten. In embarrassment, he leaves the village. Surya at one point tells Lakshmi she looks like an apsara. And when Lakshmi doesn't understand, clarifies that she looks like a pari, fairy. At this point, Surya and Lakshmi begin to sleep together. It's interesting that he does have tea made by Lakshmi and meals cooked by her. He does say he doesn't believe in the caste, but one is unsure about whether that is because he really wishes to sleep with her. At this point, Sura, his wife, returns. She doesn't want to have tea made by Lakshmi, no meals cooked by her, so she is asked to leave. Lakshmi tells Surya that she is pregnant. He wants her to abort the child, but she insists she's going to have it. He continues to persuade her to abort, but she keeps resisting. One day, Kishtaya returns. A very moving scene ensues. He has earned some money and gives it to her. She feels guilty and keeps crying. They then go to the temple and thank God for the child. Surya thinks Kishtaya has come to take revenge and with a thick rope beats him violently. The violence is unbearable to watch. Lakshmi cries out in anger at Surya, abuses him, and finally takes Kishtaya home in a very tender fashion. At the end, a little boy throws a stone at the window. Is this the beginning of a revolution? Hardly. Sadly, we still have a very strong caste system which is going to take forever to eradicate. Aaksrosh is Govind Nilani's next film that deals with tribals who are also in the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe category. It was based on a real life story on page 7 of a newspaper. Nasruddin Shah plays Bhaskar, who defends Bhikkhu, Ompuri, a tribal who is accused of murdering his wife Nagi, played by Smita Patil. The public prosecutor is Amrish Puri and Mohan Agashi plays Bhosle, who's chairman of the Zilla Parishad. Bhikkhu remains silent for much of the film, refusing to talk to the lawyer. Finally, it's a social worker, played by Mahesh L. Kunchwar, who he is the one who finally tells the lawyer what happened. The wife was raped by the foreman, and he blamed Bhikkhu. For this, the social worker is also badly beaten up. The lawyer is attacked several times, but he's determined to help Bhikkhu. Bhikkhu is allowed bail to attend his old father's funeral. He performs the rite, but at the end, he axes his younger sister's head, fearing that she too might be raped. That's the only time he lets out a cry of deep anguish and anger. Aaksrosh is anger. It's a very telling comment on how people at the top treat Adivasis. The upper caste is always shown drinking and gambling and watching Lavani, a folk dance that's usually full of double meanings and innuendos. At the end, Bhaskar says he will continue to defend Bhikkhu for the murder of his sister. It's quite remarkable. The next film is Shaji Karun's Vanaprastha. As we know, dancers are from a lower caste. A Kathakali dancer, Kunni Kottam, played by Mohan Lal, one of South India's greatest actors. He was born of an upper caste father. Kunni Kottam was born of an upper caste father who rejected him. He is married to someone but lives only for his daughter. One day, while performing Puttana from the Mahabharat Shubhadra, the niece of an upper caste divan sees him and falls in love with him. Actually, she falls in love with the character that he plays and not him. She invites him to play Arjun in a script she has written on Shubhadra Harana. They have an affair and she gets a son by him. She refuses to let him see the son. But one day she does take the son to see him. The way Konni Kotan Mohanlal touches and holds the child is extraordinarily moving. To see Mohanlal do Kathakali, he is not even professionally trained, was marvelous. I strongly urge anyone who loves dancing to see this film. After that, Kunni Kotan decides only to play demonic roles. At the end, he plays Arjun for the last time, but he gets his daughter to play the role instead of Shubhadra. The end is brilliant. I'm not sharing it here. Do watch the film. It's one of my favorite films. Mohanlal says it's his best. The next film is Sairat. This is unusual because it's made by a lower caste, Nagraj Manjule, and both the actors are also from a lower caste. Perhaps it's the first time that such a film has been made. Nagraj Manjule also made Fandry, which I'll be discussing later. In Sairat, for the first time, we really see what happens in India. The first half of the film is beautiful. We see the couple, Akash Thosar plays Prashant Parsia, and Rinku Rajguru plays Archie, falling in love and being attracted to each other. She even says to him, "Me English madhe bolo ka? Shall I say it in English? I love you." So sweet. It's a very beautiful and poignant so far. Till he asks her to give him a kiss and they disappear into a car after a party. Then the film takes a turn. And from then on, reality happens. They are chased, they run away to Mumbai, they live on the streets, they are attacked. Luckily, a woman from the south saves them and gives them shelter. She even finds a job for Archie. Gradually, even Parsia finds a job. At the beginning, it's making dosas, but gradually he too joins a factory. They have a lovely, quiet wedding with the South Indian lady present and the workers of the factory. Then one day, when they're settled and they have a child, visitors come to the house. They are from her family. They bring gifts. She begins to make tea for them. The child is taken out by a neighbor. When the child returns, she sees the dead bodies of her parents. They have been murdered by the relatives. The little child begins to cry and walks out of the house with the little toddling steps. I had tears in my eyes when I watched this scene, especially the baby as she walks out. Sadly, very sadly, this is the reality today. Couples are hacked to death if they disobey the caste order. The upper caste has no respect for them, not even their own daughter. It is so moving and sad and poignant. The next film I'm discussing is Court by Chaitanya Tamanne. It's his directorial debut. This movie is a reflection of what is happening today when so many are being jailed under penal codes that exist from British times. Narayan Kamble is accused of causing suicide to a sewer cleaner, Pawar, with a song that's been written by Narayan Kamble. He's attacked by the prosecution. His defense lawyer finally gets bail but pays for it himself. Says the man is over 60 and desperate need of medical help. He is again accused of having material which is not allowed. His defense lawyer Vora says one book is on yoga and the other is on the Goyamari sect. The lawyer's face is blackened by by some people of that sect. Vora reads the autopsy report, which says that the sweeper Pawar died of respiratory failure due to inhalation of hydrogen sulfide with no sign of self-harm. He also said that the witness was a stock witness. Later, Narayan Kamble is arrested on charges of conducting seditious camps under the cover of folk artist workshops and remanded to judicial custody. Vora pleads to reconsider the arrest as it poses a severe risk to his health. The judge tells him to appeal to the higher court. The judge is then shown holidaying with his family at a resort while Narayan Kamble languishes in jail. Again, come the accusations of today that we're all so familiar with. Stan Swami dead, Shoma Sen in jail, no bail, Narayan Dabolkar murdered, Gauri Lankesh murdered, so many others in the Elgar Parishad case, the attacks on Kanhaiya Kumar. Nothing comes so close to the truth of what is happening in our society today. In 81, Satyajit Ray made Sadgati, which means salvation or deliverance. It's a brilliant film in which Om Puri acts as Dukhya and Smita Patil acts as Juria, his wife. Mohan Agashe plays the Brahmin and Geeta Siddharth plays the Brahmin's wife. What is interesting about film is that Dukhya makes every possible arrangement to feed the Brahmin since he's supposed to come to his house and fix the date for his daughter's wedding. But the Brahmin doesn't. The Brahmin agrees to come but has asked Dukhya to work for him for free. The tragedy is that Dukhya is not well. He's not eaten breakfast, and on an empty stomach, he's made to chop wood that's really hard to chop. At one point, while the Brahmin has his lunch, he suggests to his wife that she should give him some leftovers. There are only 2 or 4 rotis, so the Brahmin suggests she make some food. But she says, who will take all the trouble in this heat? And refuses to make it. Dukhya continues to chop wood. Juria is anxious, keeps waiting for him. Another low caste person stops by and Dukhya says he could chop more wood if he could only get a smoke. The lower caste person offers to get it for him and does, but Dukhya needs a light, which hurts. So he goes to the Brahmin's house. There he steps inside and the wife throws him the light, which hurts his feet. He immediately apologizes for stepping into the house since low caste persons are not allowed inside upper caste homes. He finally dies while chopping wood, and the lower caste person who had given him that cigarette to smoke or that thing to smoke tells all the others not to handle his body. They revolt and don't touch it. Finally, the Brahmin himself is forced to drag the body. But since he doesn't want to touch it, he throws a rope around the leg and then drags the body to a pond and throws it in. It's interesting because for once, the tables are turned. Fandry was made by Nagaraj Manjule, who's from a lower caste. Fandry means pig. And the upper caste make Kachra, Jabia's father, do menial jobs like chasing pigs. A lower caste boy from the Kaikede community, Jabia, falls in love with a high caste girl, Shalu. He and his friend keep trying to catch a black sparrow with a distinctive forked tail, which if burned turns into an ash, which if applied hypnotizes the person to fall in love with the person who sprinkles it. Sadly, that happens only in Jabia's dream. Jabia dreams of buying jeans. There's a beautiful sequence where Jabia goes to a store and sees a pair of jeans. He looks at the model's face and clamps his nose with it so that he can look, takes a clothespin and clamps his nose with it so he can look like the model. I don't think that those of us from elite backgrounds can ever understand what it must mean to crave for something one can never get. At the end of the film, Jabia explodes with rage, grabs a rock and throws it at his oppressors. It's slightly revolutionary, but not quite. He does not get to meet Shalu, nor does the caste system disappear. There are lots of shots with Ambedkar painted on the wall and one in class where the teacher talks of a Dalit poet. Karnan, made in 2021, is a recent Tamil film made by Mari Salvaraj. This was based on a real life story. The low caste village had no bus stop. No matter how many times the village elders tried to get people to build it, their plea fell on deaf ears. Both the upper caste village and the police joined hands. This is perhaps the only film that suggests a revolution. All the villagers gather together and attack a bus, shattering all the window panes. The police come immediately after that to settle the matter. Karnan is persuaded to apply for the CRPF. He tries, finally does get in, but he doesn't go. He returns to fight. It also uses a lot of symbols. The one of the horse is most interesting. Dalits are not allowed to ride horses, especially at their weddings. And the only thing a young boy from a lower caste wants in the film is to ride a horse. So he gets the horse. The police round up all the villagers and take them to the police station after the attack on the bus. There, a policeman asks the lower caste person his name. He says Duryodhan. He gets a beating and he asks, how can a lower caste be Duryodhan? Implying how can a lower caste person be named after a character in the Mahabharata? At another point, there is a donkey in the film whose front legs are tied. Later in the film, Karnan takes a stone and beats the rope with another stone and frees the donkey. Yet another symbol of freedom for the lower caste. At the end, Karnan picks out the sword thrown in the water and rides back on the horse with it. He single-handedly attacks all the cops who've been attacking them. In one of the scenes, he asks the senior cop who he is attacking for his name. He says his name is Kannipiran and his father's name is Kandaya. Karnan then says, why can't Madhaswami's son be named Karnan? This is the kind of revenge for what happened at the police station. Many lives are lost. Many of the villagers die. At the end, they all dance, and the faces of the martyrs are shown in the background as they dance to celebrate their victory. Another image that keeps coming is of a young girl with a mask. This is an animation. She is the sister of Karnan who has passed away. Earlier in the film, she appears before her father. She says she's buried a treasure in the hut where they stay. They dig and actually find a treasure. Each time there's a victory, she appears and claps. Right at the end, a few years later, Karnan has married the girl he loves. But the best part is the village has finally got a bus stop. The kids can finally go to school and learn. The last shot is of the young girl clapping. Pariyerum Perumal is the last film I will discuss. Pariyerum Perumal means a horse mounting deity. 2018. It is Mari Salvaraj's directorial debut. It has received a lot of critical acclaim and won many awards. There's a statement at the beginning which I love. Caste and religion are against humanity. I couldn't agree more. He was assistant director to Ram, and there's even a credit for him at the beginning of the film as mentor director. It is shot mainly in Tirunelveli and Thoothukudi, since the film depicts the life of those who live in that region. Mari Salvaraj has studied law there and has based the film on the lives of people there. Of course, he left to make films. The film begins with a beautiful shot of a black hunting dog walking through a forest. It is Karupi, which belongs to Pariyerum Perumal, played by Katir Kavi. Karupi means black. The dog is tied by those from the upper caste to a railway track, and no matter how hard Perumal tries to get him to move, he is unable to run. This is the first instance of caste atrocity. The dog dies. At his funeral, there's a beautiful chanting with the lines, your paw scrapes are my trails. In the wilderness without you, how will I find my way? Did you think of me when you were dying? These are intercut with very moving shots of Perumal holding the dog and hugging him. In one shot, the dog is lifted and held close to him. The actor, Kevin, is a dog lover. Other lines, can you hear my call? Can you hear me cry? Can you hear my heart under the train tearing apart? I want you now. I want to cuddle you. I want you to lick my dirt clean. Who called you that you went away? How many times have I told you that all humans are not the same? They pamper you and then choke you to death. Are you alive? Am I dead? I know who killed us. Did he laugh when he killed you? Did he hear your bark? It's all very moving. I had tears in my eyes. The lyrics were composed by Mari Selvaraj. Apparently, a lot of honor killings have taken place on the railway tracks in that region. The village elders wanted Perumal to study law, so he applies to a law college. During the interview with the principal, he tells him he wants to be a doctor, and then the principal tells Perumal that it's a law college. Then Perumal explains that he wants to be a doctor like Dr. Ambedkar. The principal, anticipating trouble, asks his assistant to note this down. In college, Perumal can't understand English, neither can his friend. He falls in love with Jyoti, Mahalakshmi Jo, played by Anandi, who belongs to the upper caste, which irks Jyoti's family members. Jyoti is a naive girl from Ambasamudram. She falls for his innocence and honesty and agrees to teach him English. I'm going to digress a bit here. I too went to one of the best schools in India, Cathedral. Sadly, even there, we would imitate our teachers' accents if they were not proper. And once in college, we were training Marathi teachers to teach science on television. We were teaching them the parts of the eye. Instead of sclerotic, one of the poor teachers said clitoris, and all of us laughed in the control. It was only when I understood what colonization meant that I knew what a problem it must be for those trying to speak in a language that was not their mother tongue. The British forced their language onto us, and now the elite make fun of someone who mispronounces. It's a really very sad state of affairs. When I teach my class, I make sure my students understand how much the British exploited our country. So the English lessons begin in the movie, and they both fall in love with each other. It's wonderful till here. Now the problems begin. Her sister is getting married. She invites no one except him from the college because she wants her father to meet her. Her father sends her to get some jewelry for her aunt. So when Perumal comes dressed up as best as he can with a gift wrapped in blue paper, she's not there. Her father talks to him and begins to chat. Then he takes him to a small room and tells him to stay out of Joe's life. Then her cousin with a group of his friends enters the room and starts beating him up very badly. The worst is when one of them urinates on him. It's a revolting scene. It's unbearable to watch. They lock him in the room and leave him. Perumal says nothing about this to Joe. She thinks he did not attend the wedding. He tells her he went to play kabaddi and that's how he got all the bruises. Since her father has told him to keep away, he does, but he starts drinking and once comes to class drunk. He's hauled up by the teacher and sent to the principal. He goes to the village and brings back someone who is not his father. In the principal's office, this man hits him and beats him. As a result, the principal lets him off. He says, because your father beat you up so badly, I'm letting you off. At another point in time, Perumal decides to sit on a bench in front. The cousin, Joe's cousin, comes and makes a scene saying it's his place. Perumal says, where is it written? The cousin shows him. Next time, Perumal sits there and scratches his own name there. Perumal returns to the class to see his name scratched out. He gets most annoyed and smashes all the benches in the classroom. He then walks out, but someone pushes him into the ladies' toilet. He goes back to college thoroughly bruised, but because he's been absent, he's again asked to bring his father. He goes to the village and brings back his real father, who plays women's roles. When the father enters again, the principal asks him who he is. He says he's Perumal's father. Then the principal asks, who is the other man? He says, somebody else. The father is asked to wait outside. Inside, the principal speaks to Perumal and tells him he too was a cobbler's son, but now everyone respects him and touches his feet. He tells Perumal to study and says that after that everyone will respect him too. While the father is outside, the same gang that attacked Perumal asks him if he is a eunuch. They make fun of him, rip off his lungi and chase him through the streets. Perumal is deeply hurt and insulted. He goes after them. The father is taken to the hospital. The mother insists, in the hospital, Perumal has a knife in his hands. The mother insists on taking it away. His mother says the father has been through far worse and tells Perumal how people would think he is a female and ask him to lift his lungi. Now the problem gets worse. When he was beaten up by the father, Joe pleaded with him to let him go, but she keeps following him around. Because the cousin observes this, he goes to Perumal's village and asks an old man to kill him. The old man pretends to have hurt his leg. Perumal sees him, offers to help him. He gets onto the bicycle, puts him at the back. This man, after some time, pushes the bicycle, and Perumal is thrown off into a ditch. They get into a fight, but the man succeeds in dragging him to the railway track. He leaves him there. Perumal is in a daze. He dreams of Karupi. It's very beautiful. It's done in animation. She appears in blue, licks his wounds gently. Then as the train draws near, the blue Karupi disappears. Perumal slowly gets up and drags himself off the track just as the train is approaching. Some more men attack him as he runs away, but he manages to deal with them all. Finally, the father appears in a car and Perumal throws a stone and smashes the windshield and then tells him exactly what he thinks of him. The old man who tries to kill him sits on the track and waits for the train to kill him. When Perumal returns to college after this humiliation, someone tells him he's cleared both the English papers. So he goes to thank Joe. They sit together, and Joe, with closed eyes, tells him that she loves him. She gives him a gift of a chocolate. He breaks it and gives her the first piece, saying it's because of you that I passed. Very moving scene. Then she arranges a meeting between him and her father. The father makes the cousin apologize to Perumal. They shake hands reluctantly. Joe goes to fetch some tea, coffee, cold drink, and signals to Perumal to keep talking. The father asks Perumal why he has not said anything to Joe about the fact that, he's not gone to the wedding. Perumal replies saying she loves you more than she does me. No one has a father like mine, she says. So he says he couldn't do that. The father is slightly embarrassed but tells Perumal that his daughter likes him as much as she likes the father. He says, I also know that she wants to be with you. She is so obsessed with you. How do you feel about her? Perumal replies, before I could understand it, you tore me to pieces. Your daughter is lucky. She can say anything anywhere. Look at me. I have to die so many times before I can say what I feel. The father says sorry and tells him he's a good person. Study well, he says. That's all I can say for now. Maybe things will change. Perumal replies, as long as, before you could, as long as you can say what you want and expect me to be the dog that you want me to be, nothing will change. Joe returns with the tea and coffee and a cold drink for herself. It ends with a lovely song. Let's run around like little trains. Are you still upset with me? Forgive me. Let's go on. Why do you stand aside and look at me? Let's hold hands and walk away like we used to. You are my favorite. Am I your team or not? Tell me if you will come along. I promise you I will. There's uncertainty about whether they will get married, but still there seems to be some hope. One wonders when things will change or whether, as in Sairat, they will both be killed because they dared to challenge the caste system. Okay, I finished. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeroo. It was just a delight, I'm sure, for many of the listeners. It was like being back in the Sophia Polytechnic class and hear you with your intensity, your passion, your concern, your compassion, and to actually see you tear up made us all tear up as well. We have some very interesting questions, so let me begin. We plan to close in about 15-20 minutes, right, on the hour. So this is from Jal Bharucha. He says, Jeroo, do you think with extensive rapid global warming and consequently water shortages occurring, how do you see future films reflecting the scourge impacting lower caste? He says he hates these two words. Yeah, the lower caste individuals drastically. How do you see future films?
I think the answer is pretty clear because even now there's inequitable distribution of water. Only the very rich get water. You will see that South Bombay will get all the water, but if you're living in the suburbs and smaller towns, you're not. So it's going to impact the lower caste very badly, very, very badly.
Thank you. From Anmol Singh, are there any differences between recent movies and earlier movies on the caste system?
I think there are more movies being made. The fact that Nagarjuna Mulla, whatever his name was, I'm very bad, I forget. So the fact that a lower caste person was even able to make a movie, I think is something very important. That, he could even do it, because I don't think in earlier days a lower caste person could even make a movie. And the two movies that he has made, I think are brilliant, both Fandry and Sairat, which I talked about. But I don't think enough movies are being made about caste, quite honestly. I think many more movies should be made. And many more that, like Sujata, show upper and lower caste marriages. I think that's very important.
Thank you. From Prasanna P, he says, thank you for an interesting session, ma'am. I'm Prasanna, a PhD research scholar in history from Tamil Nadu. His question is, portraying caste discrimination in movies Does it move towards social equality, or does it further expand the gap in the society?
Could you repeat the question?
He's saying, portraying the caste discrimination in movies, does it move towards social equality, or does it further expand the gap in the society?
It depends. I think if it was positive like it was in Sujata, I think it would make a big difference. I think if more, you'll never find commercial movies touching the caste. If commercial movies began to touch caste, and there was a nice movie on Netflix actually where this, it's called Is Love Enough, Sir, or something very nice, where this man falls in love with a maid. I thought that if many more such movies were made, I think it would make a big difference. But they have to be commercial movies. But you know, in commercial movies, I guess everyone likes to see rich people and rich things and all of that. So in commercial movies, everything is glorified and made beautiful, and you know, you go to luxurious resorts and so on. So I don't think commercial movies is ever going to touch the caste system. But if they did, I think it would make a very big difference, very, very big difference. They're not usually done.
From Navya Sahai, she asks, in the current scenario, what do you think Bollywood movies like Article 15 or Dhadak, copied from Sairat, are made for? Is it to get more views from audience as a mass culture film, or to genuinely make an impact on a few?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
She's asking, what do you think Bollywood films like Article 15 or Dhadak are made for? What's their motivation? Is it to get more views from audience as a mass culture film? Yeah. Is it a commercial agenda, or to genuinely make an impact on a few?
Frankly, I haven't seen Article 15 or Dhadak, so I really can't comment, but I would imagine it's to get more viewers. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen the film, so I can't say.
From Georgina Maddox, she says, today in Bengal, the grand announcement of the Bengali Muslim girl topping the boards was like a cinema of the absurd by the Trinamool Congress lady. And then there were lots of comments on how appeasement policy is being adapted by Congress. The same is said when Congress brings up any caste issues like the Dalit girl who was raped and burnt in UP. Terrible cinematic moments there too.
Yeah.
Want to know if issues of caste can get any proper representation in today's Bollywood, which is very much driven by tigers and Katti babes.
No chance. I really don't think Bollywood is going to accept caste or make films which have to do with caste. And yes, I think the scenario, I don't think the Congress is also really too interested in caste, if you ask me. Not that I'm very fond of the BJP, but anyway. Bollywood and caste, I don't think they go together. I've just been seeing a slew of Bollywood films, and no, it's all to do with lots of material wealth and money and all of that.
Yeah. So Georgina has put a comment in brackets. She says, sometimes I even feel at least someone is trying appeasement rather than just ignoring caste issues as if it doesn't exist. your
Sorry.
best time.
Sorry. 1 second. I just saw something on the chat, and I'm very sorry about this. The Battle of Bhima Koregaon has not just touched this dance. I agree. I'm sorry. I haven't done it. I know that Wagmar is a wonderful documentary filmmaker. I also haven't touched on documentaries because I was doing feature films, and another great film to see is Anand Patwardhan's Reason, which also deals with the same thing. So my apologies to Nagmani Rao. All right, sorry, now your question.
Yeah. So this is from Smita Dakhore. She says, I was wondering your views on the cinema of P.A. Ranjit, Kabali and Kala, which portray a rather different view of the caste dynamics in India. He adopts a Marxist take on caste, and I was wondering if we have a similar narrative unfolding in Hindi cinema.
Sorry, I haven't seen the movies that are mentioned, so I can't say anything. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Moving to Subhajit Roy. How has mainstream Indian cinema tackled caste? Major directors in Bollywood especially. Also, what about Bengali cinema? I think you've kind of answered this, but...
Bengali cinema, I think, has done a lot. I mean, Ray certainly has. Benegal certainly has. So I think there is a lot to be said about that.
Do you think that from Sharda AL, do you think the caste-based violence is more stark and brutal in current movies?
Yes, but it's good because that is the reality. And I think it should happen. And I think the more they show how brutal it is, the better it is. I mean, it's even in today's papers, they attacked a Dalit because he had shaved off his beard. I mean, why can't he have a beard? Can only the Rajputs have beard? I mean, I cannot understand this. Yeah.
From Smita Dakhore again. Many scholars have criticized Hindi cinema to adopt a narrative of co-option, attempting to induct Dalits into the dominant Brahminical narrative. This is the same conflict that unfolded between Ambedkar and Gandhi. For instance, in Sujata, she has to reclaim and legitimize her space in society by donating her blood. Sadgati adopts a similar narrative. Essentially, Hindi cinema continues to portray Dalits as poor, hapless, and weak, appealing to upper caste patronage and sympathy for the quote-unquote poor Dalits. I would love to hear your views on the same.
Of course, they have been treated very badly. They are being treated very badly. I think it's important to not treat them badly, but I think it's better if the Dalits organize themselves and actually fight the system. It's like fighting for gender equality. I think it's women who have to fight for it. I don't think the men are going to. Though I've tried to sensitize some of, now SCM is open to male students, I try. But I think it's very, very important. I think it's nice that they refuse to be called Harijans. I think it was right that they chose that they wanted to be Dalits. I also think that it's very positive that there are a lot of Dalit poets who are writing. And I think that there's a, story, this Dalit woman writes about a conversion. So even, all of that is I think, very important. I think it's important.
Deepti Yadav, most of the population wants films to end merrily.
Yeah.
Do you think a sorrowful ending affects people more?
I think it's important to have sorrowful endings because tragically, I must confess that in this COVID period, I too have been watching movies which end happily because everything around is so depressing. So we all want that to some extent, but I think if there is a negative ending, I think it would affect people, and I think it's important. I think it's important.
From Nagmani Rao, when you compare the presentation of caste in films, what are the differences in perspectives according to the caste, class, gender of the maker? Do you observe differences in this?
Yeah.
Who makes the film?
See, Fandry really told the real story. Nagaraj Manjule, when he was making Sairat, told the real story. In both these, caste was represented exactly by someone who knows what the hell it means to be from a lower caste. And when it was done from an upper caste perspective, it didn't really work. I would say with the exception of Ray's Sadgati, which I think is a brilliant film.
So Radha Rajadhyaksha, her similar question. You said we need positive films on caste like Sujata. As a cinema teacher and cinema buff, do you prefer realistic, albeit pessimistic representations of caste like in Sadgati or Fandry, or positive ones like Sujata? You kind of spoke to this.
Difficult questions. I think a little bit of both. I think we need the Fandris, the Sairats, and we also need Sadgati. We also need some positive ones like Sujata. I think we need all. I think. Yeah, definitely. We need to see both sides of we need to see both sides of everything. I think that's very important. So I think we need both.
From Shubhajit Roy, can you please suggest some documentaries on caste that are worth watching?
Anand Patwardhan's movie Reason, which I think is brilliant. Then of course he's made one. Oh God, what is it? It's about this this whole thing where the what the hell is it called? Forgive me, I've grown old now, so I forget. Yeah, Jai Bhim Comrade. Thank you so much. Someone has said Jai Bhim Comrade, Father, Son and Holy War. All of these are fabulous movies and I highly recommend them. Thank you.
You have a bunch of really supportive people on the chat who are kind of giving you, when you're forgetting things, they're putting it in there. So thank you, whoever's doing that.
Yes.
So
thank you to all of you, Pratik Sate, Lata Murugan, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yadav, in the name of God.
Jai Bhim Comrade is actually the one that I was talking about, and even Father, Son and Holy War. Yeah. These are all, I think, excellent. And even this Wagmare's suggestion, which I think was very good.
Okay. From Jyotika Jain, last one. Has Bollywood been responsible in making the caste divide deeper? The mainstream filmmakers aren't doing much, unlike the filmmakers of the 60s and 70s, where Shyam Benegal was an active voice of the milieu. Your thoughts, ma'am?
I agree.
Okay.
I fully agree. I don't think Bollywood is doing anything about caste at all. At all.
And therefore, Prasanna's comment, he says, if society itself is divided and corrupted, then can we expect the mainstream media not to be unbiased as a reflection of society?
Well, I frankly don't think that we're ever going to get rid of the caste system, ever. But one likes to hope. And yeah, movies are a reflection of society, but sometimes movies can also try and change things, no? I think it's important for some filmmakers to make an effort to show the reality as it is so that things can change. And I must say, I think Sairat is a very good job, very, very good job.
This is the last question from Amu Joseph. She says, do you think one way forward is for filmmakers, preferably Dalit but not necessarily, to make films that are not overtly about caste, but brings it in effectively as part of a story that wider audiences would want to watch? One example from what I've read, I haven't yet watched, is Sarpatta Parambarai, a Tamil film directed by P.A. Ranjit, which is about boxing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I would agree with her. I think it's important even if it's boxing or whatever. I think in some ways, if someone from a lower caste, yeah, Prema says we can't really talk about lower caste. She objects to the word lower caste. She says you call them oppressed. But yeah, I think it's important that we do that. I think it is important that we try to do that.
So Jeroo, we're 1 minute past time, but there are 2 more questions. Would you like to take them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so from Latika Padgaonkar, have you ever seen a film which justifies caste attitudes? I feel directors and artists are of liberal spirit overall.
Many. All the Bollywood films justify upper caste. So nothing. All of them justify the upper caste all the time. There's only upper caste people shown in Bollywood films. Yeah, I like this comment from Nagmani Rao. Regional cinema does better. Yes, I fully agree. I've also seen some excellent Malayalam films. Very good. I fully agree.
Last question from Asmita Kundu. She says, why do films like Sairat, when adapted by Bollywood, shift its focus more towards romance than the caste issue?
I have not seen the Hindi version of Sairat. I only saw the Marathi version. So, I don't know. I can't answer that question. But the Marathi version was superb. So I agree. Regional films really, really handle the problem better, I think.
So Jeroo, it's been just such a delight. You can see it's been alive and lovely comments. I'll send you the...
One second. I like this. Sairat's Hindi version had no caste factor at all. Oh, this is Radha Rajadaksha. Thank you, Radha, for telling me this. I haven't seen Hindi version. Thank God I didn't see it. And Dolly Thakur has complimented you. She said Nilima was very good. Nilima's my student, so she has to be good.
And Dolly Thakur, so nice to have you on the call. I remember you from our conversations when I was at the Windsor Manor in Bangalore, a young lady at that time. So great to have you here.
Very nice.
And so, Jeroo, any beautiful closing comments? I mean, it's just been a delight to have vintage Jeroo do what he does.
I have one closing comment which I want to share with you.
Yes.
This is, I love this. Gilda sent me this. My friend Gilda Matthews, I go for a walk with her every day. So she sent me what, she's my favorite, Maua Moitra. You're a Hindu as long as there are Muslims in the country. Once they are gone, you'll not be Hindu anymore. You'll be Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Dalits, and Untouchables. I love that comment. So I want to end with that. Send me the chat also, huh, Nilima,
Yes.
please. I'd like to see the chat.
Yes, me too. I haven't had time to look at that and
Yeah.
I'm buzzing happily.
Yeah.
So, Jeroo, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you,
It's just
thank
been
you.
a delight. It's been like a reunion of our SEM alumni. And
Oh, yeah. Sunita, I fully agree with you. Caste is alive and flourishing, and it matters. I fully agree with you. It's terrible. It's actually terrible. Yeah. Okay. That's it. I agree.
Lata Murugan Singh, you mentioned a fun intro later on. What about that? So, well, actually, I did that, Lata, which was I was sharing how Jeroo is this legend, and we would quake in front of her, and
one one of my students from Canada, she's so bright, and I gave her 2 on 10. Can you imagine? I stopped doing that now. I don't do that anymore. I was very stupid, but I just felt that would urge people on to work harder. I've stopped doing it now. Ever since I've done Vipassana, I found that there are other ways to get things done.
Well, thank you for mentioning Vipassana, because today is Guru Purnima. It's the day where the Buddha gave his first sermon at Sarnath after his enlightenment.
Correct. Absolutely right. It is.
On that note, a deep sense of gratitude to you, Jeroo.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm just so happy that you invited me. And I know it's inappropriate to wear this sari for a talk on caste, but my sister passed away and I wanted to wear this sari. So I wore it. Sorry for that. I should have actually worn a simpler sari.
Oh. I think the whole intention or the aspiration of the Truth and Reconciliation movement is, how do we co-hold all our realities? It's okay to have our joys and our pleasures and to celebrate what we do have, and not feel guilty about that. So I love your neck piece. It's so beautiful. I love the sari, how it's reflecting your green eyes, and it's Jeroo once again. So lots of love, everybody. Please keep in touch. Follow us on truthandreconciliation.net, and would love to hear your comments. We will be posting this video on our YouTube channel, and any further conversation you want, we're happy to curate more of these and maybe bring Jeroo back. And we know we can do so much together. So thank you, thank you,
Thank you very much, Nilima. I really enjoyed this session. Really, thank you very much, because I feel very strongly about caste. So I'm happy that I was able to speak about it.
And a final shout out to Mahen for having stood by you and made sure you had your right profile on camera. And so give him a big hug from all of us.
He's saying thank you.
All right then, everybody, one big thunderclap for the one and only Jeroo Mulla.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.